Hello everyone, welcome to Philex. So far we have skilled the method of calculation of the electric field due to a point charge only. That means if you have been given a point charge Q at a particular separation R, we can find the electric field to be 1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 Q divided by R square, right? So, but many types of objects that we see in our day-to-day lives are not exactly point charges. We may see different types of charges such as linear charge distributions in which lakhs or crores of the charges, point charges are arranged in a single direction or a single line to form a complex charge distribution called linear charge distribution, right? So another type of charge distribution is given by the surface charge distributions in which charges are arranged along the same plane. In a single plane, the charges are distributed, right? So in these cases, charges are distributed along the two axes. And third type of charge distribution that we see is the volume charge distributions in which charges are arranged in all three dimensions or on all three axes. In x-axis, y-axis or z-axis, you can see the distribution of the charges. So this type of charge distributions makes our life pretty much difficult to calculate the electric field. We have skilled the method of only to calculate the electric field to a point charge. But when the point charges are arranged in different complex manner, we cannot know how to find this electric field. So here is the problem. So how can we solve this problem? How can we skip this problem to find this electric field as simple as in case of the point charges? So there is a solution which is called Gauss theorem. The Gauss theorem makes our life pretty much simpler. It needs no efforts to calculate to perform lengthy calculations or lengthy integrations. So it helps a lot in solving this type of problems that you see in this lecture. To stay tuned with us, to subscribe our channels, like, and if you have any questions, then put that in comment section. We shall definitely answer that question. To get this PDF of this lecture, do join with my Telegram channel named Philex. I have given the link in the description. In this channel, we shall discuss daily MCQ on the what I have been taught so far. So it will be a great help for you, those who are preparing for the entrance examination. So let's apply the Gauss theorem to calculate the electric field due to a linear charge distribution, that is a long straight charge conductor. If you have a conductor, then there are many charges in that conductor. That conductor is along the single axis, so it is linear in charges. So in Gauss theorem, we shall apply. Gauss theorem is basically phi is equal to q divided by epsilon 0. So here in this case, we shall apply calculate first the phi, that is flux linked with the surface, and then calculate this total charge inside that surface. Then equate them, and solving that, we shall calculate the electric field, right? So now let's see that what kind of charges are possible. So this is the long straight charge conductor. Suppose there is three axes, x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis, as in these cases. Suppose this is x, this is y, and this is z-axis. Then suppose in y-axis we have the distribution of the charges. In y-axis we have the distribution of the charges. So in order to calculate the flux, first we have to calculate the lines of force, how the lines of force are behaving. So what is the lines of force? So if you put a charge, positive charge, then it will go in this direction. If you put a positive charge, this will go in this direction. If you put a positive charge, this will go in this direction. If positive charge, this will go in this direction. So look at this picture, that all the charges are going in the xz plane. If the charges are situated on the y-axis, along the y-axis, then lines of force are passing along the xz plane only. Okay, the lines of force are lying on the xz plane. So look at this picture. So if this one is a, if this is the cross sectional view of a charge distribution, this is the charge distribution, and this is the cross sectional view on top of that is the top view of this line, top of charge distribution. So if you see the top distribution, then this is the lines of force. If you see it from the above, the lines of force will look like this. So in this direction, the lines of force are passing through. Then now we shall choose a Gaussian surface such a way that all the lines of force are passing through the surface either in 0 degree or in 90 degree, right? So that we know the value of cos theta. It will be simply cos 0 or cos 90, right? So We shall choose a Gaussian surface like in this, in which all these lines of forces will passing through that object either in making a 0 degree with that surface or making 90 degree with that surface. Okay, the geometrical surface that satisfy this condition for this charge distribution is cylindrical surface. Like this is the charge distributions. Then if I take a cylindrical surface out of it, look at this, the charge, all the lines of force are passing through in this way. So if I took a cylindrical surface like this, then for this surface, the charges are the direction of the area will be like this, and direction of the lines of force is along the same direction. That is, their angle between them is 0. Okay, that's what we want. That the angle between the lines of force and area vector will be either 0 degree or 90 degree. We shall choose the surface like in such a way. Okay, so we shall consider a Gaussian surface. That's why we choose a cylindrical Gaussian surface, so that all the lines of all angle between lines of force and the surface area will be either 0 or 90 degree. So look at this. This is the charge distributions. If this is the charge distribution, then we have a Gaussian surface like cylindrical Gaussian surface like this. Okay, if you have a cylindrical Gaussian surface like this, then let's choose the how the surface are behaving. Look at this. The cylindrical Gaussian surface has three types of charges. One is a three type of surface. This is the suppose I call it S1. Now I call it as S2, and this curved surface is S3. Right, this curved surface. There are three types of surface in a Gaussian surface. So two surfaces are plane ended, that is on the top and on the bottom, and then there is a curved surface around that. I name it that as a S3. Right. So look at this, that we know that if there is a surface, okay, this is the surface, then the perpendicular direction to the surface is the direction of that surface. The direction of a surface is given by taking the perpendicular to the surface. So look at this S1 surface. In this case of S1 surface, the perpendicular will be in this direction. So this is the direction of the surface, and always the electric field is along the in this direction, we know. So this angle between these two is 90 degree, clearly 90 degree. So angle for S1, if I call it S1, so the direction is called suppose DS1. This is, take as a small elemental area on the S1 plane and name that DS1. So the angle between ds1 and electric vector, that is lines of force of direction of the lines of force or electric field, is along the 90 degree to each other. They are 90 degree to each other, perpendicular to each other. So in case of the here ds1 and the e have perpendicular to each other. That's why ds1 is perpendicular to e, and theta 1, I name it as theta 1 for the angle between ds1 and e as theta 1, that is 90 degree, right? So similarly for the S2 surface, that is surface on the bottom, if I take a small elemental area, that will be along the direction, downward direction, and lines of force as usual is in the radially outward direction. So angle between these two also 90 degree. So it will be represented as theta 2. That's why ds2 and e vector are perpendicular to each other, and theta 2 is equal to 90 degree, right? So now consider the third surface, that is S3 surface. So choose any surface on this surface, that is S3. Name it as ds3. So if you choose this surface, then perpendicular to it will be in this direction, and electric field always directed along this direction, right? So the angle between them are parallel to, almost they are parallel to each other. That's why the angle between them is 0 degree, right? If the angle between them is 0 degree, then I will call it theta 3. That is the angle between ds3 and e. That is the theta 3, and theta 3 is equal to 0 degree, right? Now we shall consider the flux, that is the left hand side of this Gauss law. This is the Gaussian surface that we are talking about, and now we shall calculate phi. We know phi is equal to q divided by epsilon 0. So we shall first calculate the phi, left hand side of this equation. So phi is equal to, basically from the definition we know that it is integration of the E dot ds. So S is the Gaussian surface. All over the Gaussian surface we are going to calculate this one, right? So now in our Gaussian surface is cylindrical surface. So in cylindrical surface there is three types of surface that you see here. Okay, so there is S1 surface, S2 surface, and S3 surface, two plane ended surface and a curved surface. So we shall split this into three types of surface. So to make this integration pretty simpler, we shall split this into three types of surface. So name it S1. We shall separately do the integration for three surfaces, that is S1, S2, and S3, right? So we shall we are splitting this integration as three parts: s1, s2, and s3. s1, s2, and s3. So now E dot S1 over S1 surface, E dot S2 over S2 surface, and E dot S3 over S3 surface, all the surface on the S3. Now that A dot B is equal to AB cos theta, so E dot ds1 is equal to EDS cos 1 cos theta 1, EDS2 cos theta 2, and EDS3 cos theta 3, right? So we shall now put the value of theta 1, theta 2, and theta 3. So theta 1 is basically 0 degree, theta 2 is basically, sorry, theta 1 is 90 degree, theta 2 is 90 degree, and theta 3 is 0 degree, where cos 90 is basically 0, cos 90 again is 0. So the only term that contributes is the 0 degree, cos 0 is 1. So this will be 2 term will be 0, and third term will be EDS3 into 1. Okay, so we are left with the integration of only third term, that is phi is equal to E dot ds3, right? So now the integration will be E into ds3 surface. But now look at the surface, that at a particular separation distance r, whether we calculate this here, whether we calculate this here, this is at the same distance. All the points on the surface, all the points on the surface, whether this surface are equidistant from this surface r. Whenever a point is equidistant from a source of charges, then electric field will be same for them, those charges, right? So for this point we have 1 by 4% q by epsilon 0 q by r square. For this point we have 1 by 4% q by r square. All these points have the same magnitude of the electric force, electric field. So this electric field will go constant over the surface ds3, right? So as I said previous, so it is constant ds3. E does not depend upon the surface over the ds3 surface, so E will be treated as a constant in this integration, treated as a constant. So E is taken out of integration. So if I take an integration, then I'm left with E only integration of ds3, that is integration of the total surface. So let me express it as ds only s3. So integration of, that is integration of s3 is total s3. So now I have to calculate this surface area of this curved surface only, right? So I have to calculate this surface area of this curved surface only. So one way to calculate this is if I cut this curved surface and place it as a rectangle, then this will be like this. Okay, so this total area will be this one, and this total length and this height will be L, we know. Okay, so now we have to calculate this circumference of this circle, so that it will be the breadth of this rectangle, right? So circumference of the circle of radius r, since it is a distance r, it has the radius r, so circumference will be simply 2 pi r, and area of this rectangles will be area of this curve area, right? So area of this rectangle is simply length into breadth, that length is equal to L and breadth is 2 pi r. So total surface area will be 2 pi r into L, right? So total surface area will be 2 pi r into L. Now S3 is equal to 2 pi r into L. Okay, so I have to substitute S3 by 2 pi r into L. So phi will be 2 pi E multiplied by 2 pi r into L. Okay, that's the equations that I have to remember. Now from the Gauss law we know that phi is equal to Q enclosed divided by epsilon 0. So phi can be replaced by E into 2 pi r into L, right? So now I have replaced the phi by E into 2 pi r into L. Okay, then in right hand side we have as usual Q enclosed divided by epsilon 0. Now my task is to find this Q enclosed. How much charge is enclosed within this Gaussian surface, right? So I have to calculate that charge only enclosed. So how much charges are enclosed? The charges enclosed from this here, this part is not enclosed and this part is not taken into consideration. So we have to take consideration of the charges only on this parts, right? So how can we calculate this charge? We have the length given, we have the data that is length of this cylinder, or length of, so that it is length of the wire or length of the charge conductor that is inside the Gaussian surface is also given L. Now if length is given, then we can calculate the Q enclosed, because we have another parameter, that is surface charge density or line charge density we have given. If I multiply that line charge density by L, then I can get Q enclosed, because Q enclosed is generally, by definition, Q enclosed or lambda is equal to Q enclosed divided by L. So if I multiply this L over here, then Q enclosed will be equal to lambda multiplied by L. Okay, Q enclosed equal to lambda multiplied by L. Now I can substitute this Q enclosed in this equation 3. Okay, so equation 3 will be reduced to equation 3 will be reduced to now equation 3 will be reduced to E into 2 pi R into L in the left hand side, and on the right hand side we have Q enclosed will be replaced by lambda into L divided by epsilon 0. Now both on the left hand side, now leaving the E on the right hand side, E on the left hand side only, we have 2 pi R into L on the denominator of this right hand side. So it's lambda multiplied by L divided by 2 pi R L into epsilon 0. Now 1 L can be cancelled from both sides. Now we have E is equal to lambda is equal to lambda divided by 2 pi epsilon 0 into R, right? Lambda is equal to, by cancelling L on both sides, is equal to lambda divided by 2 pi epsilon 0 into R. That's what we want to calculate here. So this is E is equal to lambda divided by 2 pi epsilon 0 into R. Okay, so that's it for today. If you like this video, please make a comment, and if you have any query, then put that in comment section. I shall definitely answer the question.